Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am starting a new series on my channel all about applying to medical school. I applied to medical school last year and I am now accepted into the Medical College of Georgia. I will be starting there at the end of July. I was gonna start this series back when I was in the trenches applying to school, but then I just got a little overwhelmed and I wanted to actually say that I had gotten into a school before I put out all this information about how to actually get into school. But now we're here on the other side of it and it is time to talk all about the application process. There are going to be several videos focusing on different topics all related to your application. I don't want to overwhelm you in one 50-minute video. We're gonna start small and slow. So I'll just give you a little taste today and then you can come back to watch some more in-depth videos. Today is all about your primary application. I'm gonna go through an overview. We're not gonna go into the really intricate details because I want to make a separate video for each part because there are some in-depth things you need to know. But when I started out applying to school, I wanted to know the basics. I like to see the overall picture because that eases my nerves. It relieves some stress when you see this is the big picture. These are the 5 things I have to do. I like checklists. I like that kind of stuff. So this is the checklist video. Here are 5 things that you need for your primary application. Your primary application is pretty much what it sounds like. That is your first application that's through MCAS. That is like you're applying to college, like undergrad. Remember when you applied to undergrad, that was one primary application. And then normally your undergrad might send you a secondary application. That's the same thing in medical school. You have your primary application. That is what you can work on for several months, send it into your medical school, and then they will send you a secondary application which has questions specific to that school normally, and you have about 2 weeks to complete that, and then you have your interview. And then you can get in. Let's start over here at the very beginning, what we need to do in our primary application. There are 5 major things: the MCAT, work and activities, your personal statement, your coursework, and your letters of evaluation. However, these last 2, you're already working on throughout your life. You start in elementary school to middle school to high school to undergrad to work on getting those good grades for your coursework, which I mentioned was number 4. And also your letters of evaluation go with that. You have to make pretty good grades to get some evaluation. So really, you've already been working on those last 2 things. So let's focus on the first 3 right now and then we'll just touch on the last 2. So really, there's just 3 main things extra that you need to do along with your coursework, keeping up your good grades, you know. That's really difficult, but these are just 3 extra things you need to add. You've already done your coursework and you've already been around some professors that will probably give you some letters of recommendation. Number 1, the MCAT. I know if you are a pre-med student, those letters, MCAT, give you a lot of stress. Not gonna lie, I have a little bit of PTSD from it. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration. The MCAT is the entrance exam, medical college admission test. This is where you show off your skills that you learned throughout all of undergrad and show them, hey, my brain knows its stuff. I know what I'm doing. This is where you can show off your nerdy skills, show off your scientific skills and your reading skills rather than your personality. Your personality is not gonna show in the MCAT. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This is a very difficult test. I will go in depth on the MCAT in a completely different video, but I just want to put it out there. Yes, it's difficult, but you can get through it. You've gotten through OChem already. You've gotten through general chemistry. You've gotten through physics. You've gotten through anatomy. You've gotten through biology. You can do this. I'll touch on the MCAT just a little bit. When I started out trying to figure out how I wanted to study for the MCAT, I didn't even know what a good score was. And yes, you can find a good range and whatnot. That's just general, but I wanted to see which schools I wanted to apply to and what their average score was. That is my recommendation. Figure out kind of the area that you want to live in. Look at the medical schools in that area and see what their average MCAT score is. There were 2 schools that I was deciding between. One had a significantly lower MCAT score than the other one. So honestly, I was thinking if my MCAT score is not as high as I want it to be, I have a fallback school. So it really does kind of ease your mind when you look at the average scores of these schools and see that yes, some are lower and I can still become a doctor with a lower MCAT score, but also you can strive to meet this average score or even higher at your dream school. It is really motivating to see, okay, the students that got into so-and-so medical school got this average score. I think I can do that. I think I can beat that. Then I would start out taking a practice test. There are free practice tests you can take online. I will say the test is going to take a long time. It's about 7.5 hours, including your breaks. The test itself is a little over 6 hours. Yes, it sounds scary. Honestly, it is. But I promise you that you can do it. Sit down, take a practice test, just cold and see what you get. Because honestly, this is pretty motivating if you see, okay, I only need 5 more points. And don't worry if you get a terrible score. Everyone gets a really bad score when they do it first. But this is to get you familiar with the test and also just to kick those nerves in the butt right from the gate, because it's a long test and might as well just get it out of the way one time and see how you feel about it. There are a bunch of different prep courses you can use, or you can just order some books, and I'll go into that in depth in another video, but that is the MCAT. The next section of the application is your work and activities section. This is kind of where you can brag on yourself and show your passion for what you've done. You can put your shadowing hours here, your volunteer hours, any extracurriculars you've done, any awards you've received, any leadership roles you had. You have a max of 15 experiences you can write about. I don't even think I wrote about 15. I think I maybe wrote down 10. I didn't write max of 15. There are 3 that you choose that are your most meaningful, and then you write more about those 3. It really is more about quality over quantity. If you have 10 different volunteer experiences, but you only did them for 2 weeks at a time or 2 months at a time, it doesn't look as good to admissions committees compared to longevity with a volunteer experience. It really scared me at first because I was like, there is no way I can have a lot of volunteer experience while studying for the MCAT, while trying to keep good grades in my current classes. But I found 1 volunteer experience for me. Seriously, only 1, and I stuck with it, and I was able to write something meaningful about that experience and about specific patients I saw, or about specific doctors I saw, and that was more meaningful than 10 volunteer experiences. Your shadowing also goes here. You do have to have some shadowing hours with doctors. Sometimes it's who you know. If you have an in with a certain doctor, just literally go shadow them for a week. Maybe it's your spring break. Take your spring break to shadow them, a week in the summer to shadow them, and then you can write about that experience. And it changed the game for me when I was deciding or thinking about different specialties I wanted to go into. I was set on emergency medicine, and then I shadowed in emergency medicine, and I realized I don't really think this is it for me. Nothing wrong that I saw, it was just the schedule was not the schedule that I wanted. My personality needs a set schedule. I would like appointments, and I realized the ER is not for me. So shadowing is just really cool too, because you're saying, I can actually do this one day, and you can write about that in your work and experiences. Also, as the title says, work and experience. Your work, if you have worked in any capacity during college, you can write about that experience. Any awards you got, if you have a 4.0 GPA, if you're like on the dean's list or honors list, I don't really know what they call it at every school, that's something you can write about too. And any leadership experience, if you're in a club or if you are part of a ministry, you can talk about any leadership you've had there. Yes, it's overwhelming, but seriously, I would just say focus on 1 of each of these things. You're probably gonna have to have more than 1 shadow experience, but find a meaningful one, the one that you can talk about. Really, quality over quantity. And I wanna have a whole separate video on the work and experiences section, but this is just a little bit of an overview, like I'm saying. Third thing, your personal statement. This is where you get to write an essay. And honestly, all these people going to medical school, we're not English majors normally. Don't come for me if you're an English major. You're fantastic that you did all your English classes and your science classes, but a lot of the people going into medical school are science brained. We're not writing papers just for fun on the daily. So start early with your personal statement. Read some personal statements first, see the feel of it. I'll go into this in depth in another video, but the gist of it is, why are you going into medicine? What in your background has inspired you to go into medicine? What is your passion behind it? But it does not have to be a sob story. Honestly, I read some personal statements. I was like, I have nothing compared to that. Nothing so traumatic in my life, nothing that I've seen that's that horrific that I can write about. You have unique experiences in your life that made you want to go into medicine. So think about that and write about that, and just be honest. Don't just make up all this fluff, because they're going to realize that it's not true. Number 4 is your coursework, which I already mentioned. You're working on that. You're trying to get that good GPA. You're trying to get all your prerequisites. I realized I did not go through the prerequisite courses. I am going to make a whole separate video all about your coursework. But if you're curious about it now, every medical school has a list of prerequisite courses that are required for you to apply. But I will go through the required ones and then some optional ones in a whole separate video. This is gonna be serious. I just annoyingly sound like a broken record at this point. Number 5, your letters of evaluation. You're already making a good impression with these professors while you're completing your coursework. I know that lecture halls can be massive, absolutely massive. So how do you make a connection with a professor when you're in a lecture hall with 400 other students? That is overwhelming. And I know you've already been told this, but seriously, go to office hours. I had one professor that I think he would be very good at writing my personal statement. I'm gonna go to his office hours. And he actually wrote down in the syllabus, if you come to office hours, I will write a recommendation for you if you are working hard. And I was like, okay, this is the man for me, because I can go to his office hours, he writes down who went to his office hours, he can look at how many I came to, and he knows my face and can put that with a name and then write about it. And actually this professor was really good because I asked him for a recommendation and it was a year too early. He said, seriously, email me in a year and I will meet with you. And so we met over Zoom. He looked through my resume, he looked through my transcript, he looked at my personal statement, and he had some very, very good words of wisdom when it came to the application, but he was also so kind. So just make one really good connection with a professor. You don't have as many as you want, but it is overwhelming to start off with, so find one. You also will need a physician that you shadowed with to write a letter of evaluation for you. So just make sure you're kind when you're shadowing, because a lot of them are very willing to do it. And then just one other person in your life. It could be your boss at work, it could be someone that you have volunteered with, it could be someone that you were in a leadership role with. Those are the 5 things. An overview of all of them. I'm going to do a separate video on all the 5 things, but maybe listening to this overview helped you just a little bit to figure out, how do I start with applying to medical school? The Bible verse for today is Luke 6:36. Be merciful even as your Father is merciful. Mercy is not getting what we deserve. The Lord showed us mercy because we deserve death because of our sin. But Jesus Christ came down to earth and died for our sins. He showed us mercy in that. And so we can show mercy to other people by being forgiving and by being gracious and by loving others even when they don't deserve love, because we don't deserve love either. But we can show love to others because it's God's love in us. I hope you were encouraged by that today. If you have any questions at all about the medical school application process, seriously, anything at all, please comment it down below. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day and be a blessing to others today. Bye guys.